Welcome to the extended version of this lesson on the outer gateway. We just covered what the outer gateway is, what it does, and why your protag should make the choice to go forth. Now, let's look at a few more reasons your protag should go willingly, an alternative form of outer gateway, and a trick to ensuring this moment packs a big punch in your story. Plus, we'll look at an in-depth example of 2014's Whiplash. Let's start by fleshing out the concept that the outer gateway must be a choice the protag makes. We explained that the main reason for this is to establish the goal, which, if missing, will take the story out of your story. But there's a few more reasons why it's a lot more powerful to show your protag making a conscious choice here. The second reason is that it makes them seem more heroic. We tend to admire people with courage, and setting off into unfamiliar territory certainly takes some guts. In this way, giving the protag the choice to set off gives them a chance to show some courage, and, in turn, seem a little more heroic. Third, it gives the protag agency. There's nothing worse than a story where a protag has no choice in what happens to them, because they no longer feel like a protag. They feel like a helpless victim. And this actually leads into the fourth reason. If the protag makes the choice to set off on a dangerous journey, then they earn the misfortune of said journey. It is ultimately their choice that leads them to their own suffering, and it is their responsibility to overcome it. And at the end of the day, these four reasons work towards the same thing, proving why your protag is your protag. Next, let's mention a common variant of the outer gateway. Usually the catalyst introduces the obligatory scene and thus implies the goal. But what about stories with a more vague catalyst? Ones that don't create a clear picture in our head of where the story should end. When the catalyst is vague, or if the protag has changed situations in the catalyst through a catalyst gateway, like our example from The Wizard of Oz, the outer gateway will act as the spot the protag's goal is clarified. Basically, it takes them a little more time to figure out exactly what their journey will look like. For example, in The Edge of 17, the catalyst is when Nadine discovers her best friend is sleeping with her brother. Notice there is no implied goal. When Nadine realizes she must find someone to replace her best friend, she clarifies her goal in the outer gateway when she invites classmate Erwin to a theme park. Notice the clarification of the goal also includes the commitment to it we'd normally see in the outer gateway. Finally, here's a tool you can use to make sure your outer gateway packs the punch it should. In some stories, it might feel like your protag is almost forced to go on their journey. One example is Die Hard, where antag Hans Gruber bursts in at the catalyst. It's expected that John will save the day, especially considering he's a police officer. But one of the reasons this movie works so well is because it still gives John a choice. He hasn't been spotted, and he could easily escape the building and go get the local cops to save the day. But he doesn't, instead taking matters into his own hands and pulling the fire alarm in the outer gateway before fighting back. Something similar happens in Mulan, when Mulan has the choice to let her father fight in the army. But instead, she disguises herself in his armor and heads off in his place. These moments work because they give the protag more than one option. Sure, the other option isn't great, but neither is the one they choose. This will help your outer gateway pack a punch because it will feel less like the protag is forced and more like they have a choice. Now, let's see the outer gateway in action with our in-depth example.
Whiplash is a 2014 music drama that follows Andrew, a student at a prestigious jazz college, as he tries to survive an abusive teacher's studio band. This story has a great example of a new situation that has both a geographical and situational change. The story starts on Andrew, a first-year drummer at Schaefer Music School who longs to be in the studio band run by teacher Terrence Fletcher. In fact, he watches through the window of the studio space during rehearsal, clearly letting us know that this is his dream. In the catalyst, Fletcher asks several drummers to perform a difficult skill known as a double time swing, and this earns Andrew a spot at rehearsal. In the hesitation phase, Andrew asks out a girl and rushes to rehearsal, though he is 3 hours early. Then, the outer gateway shows the other studio members filing in, preparing their instruments, and warming up before Fletcher walks in at exactly 9 o'clock. First, let's talk about the external change here. There is a geographical change as Andrew finally enters the coveted studio space, and this is half of the new situation since this is where the studio band rehearses. We know this includes both treasures and dangers, since Fletcher can make or break a student's career. But there is also a more important situational change, since this moment marks when Andrew is officially a part of Fletcher's band. So one external change brings us to the space of the new situation, and the other brings us to the situation of it. This outer gateway also does a good job of setting the scene and showing how the new situation is a change from the ordinary world. Andrew is now a part of an elite group of musicians who file in and get prepared in only a minute or two. And we hear them warming up before our favorite part, the clock ticks down. This acts as a countdown to Act 2 and signals a shift. And this shift is emphasized as the noise suddenly stops and everyone stands at attention in silence. And this countdown and shift from loud to quiet is what really sells this act break. We can also see this is the start of Andrew's goal. In Whiplash, it's not overtly clear, but we know Andrew's want is greatness, since he talks about it so much throughout the movie. Being a part of Fletcher's band is a part of this, but his true goal, the physical manifestation of his want, is to impress Fletcher and the world with the double time swing. So we can see that this moment, when Andrew becomes a part of Fletcher's band, is the moment he fully commits to pursuing his goal. Whiplash is a great example of how to create an outer gateway that not only showcases an external change and a commitment to the goal, but also uses a countdown and a shift in volume to mark the act break. So if your new situation is situational, follow in the steps of Whiplash to highlight this change using all of the tools at your disposal.
You should now have a good understanding of the outer gateway, including what it does, why the protag must go willingly, and how you can use it alongside a catalyst gateway. And in the next lesson, we're going to explore this new situation and watch your protag start to test things out.